welcome and thanks for watching. I'm Sam and I'll be your moderator today. In just a minute, we'll be joined by Patrick Ray, who's one of our senior advisors here at the Retirement Group. With over 150 years combined service between all of our advisors here, they've definitely seen just about everything. Luckily for you, Patrick Ray will be on in just a moment to go over some of the 5 most common mistakes made within your 401k in hopes to help you avoid making those mistakes. Before Patrick comes on, though, I'd like to very quickly remind you that we are not affiliated nor endorsed whatsoever by Merck. We are a completely independent group of financial advisors here at the Retirement Group. After his presentation, I will rejoin him quickly to ask him some of the questions that have come through the Q&A box. I invite you to stick around if you're interested in listening to those. And if you happen to see any YouTube cards popping up on your screen, please feel free to give those a quick click. They're going to guide you to several different resources that we offer, one of which may simply be a link to book an appointment with Patrick Ray himself or one of his colleagues if you wish, once this video has ended. And without further ado, here is Patrick Ray.
Thank you very much, Sam. Good afternoon, everyone, and hopefully everyone's having a great day. And I'm going to do my best to try to make it just a little bit better with respect to some issues that you'd be surprised how often come up. If I had to list out the things that would surprise me as an advisor looking into someone's plan to transition into a successful retirement, this thing that we're going to go over today, among a number of topics, are on top of the list. And it shouldn't be, frankly. And it's if you're doing the right things and you're in touch with the right people, for sure, if you're ultimately leaning on or looking for a partner in retirement, where you develop a strategy to help you avoid these very issues. Okay, so today we're going to talk about 5 of the key mistakes that we see from a 401k perspective. We're going to talk about missing out on the 401k match. We're going to talk about the frequent early withdrawal penalties that I see people incur because of inappropriate planning for the most part. And we're going to talk also about having multiple 401ks for those of you who have transitioned in the past from one job to another and had never done anything with your 401k. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk specifically about those of you who work for a publicly traded company where the majority of your match oftentimes comes from getting stock in that particular company. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to talk about the significance of rebalancing your overall portfolio. So in the grand scheme of things, missing out on your 401k match is an unbelievable downfall to you, right? It's literally giving up free money. But as I mentioned at the beginning, you would be surprised at how often I see this occur. And it's basically not contributing enough to receive the free money that the company is giving you. So let me make sure I'm clear, or as clear as I can be, which is whatever you have to do to adjust in your life to be able to make up the ability to put the minimum in your 401ks to at least get all of the free money that the company is willing to give you, you absolutely must do that. Let me repeat that. You absolutely 1000% with no equivocations, you must do that, right? And missing out on free money is giving you an inability to accumulate what you're going to ultimately rely on for the rest of your life once you transition into retirement. And so it's imperative that you understand the interworkings of your 401k for your company. And if you don't, you need to find someone who can help you understand this and adjust accordingly to make sure that you're at minimum putting in what you can to get the contributions from the company so that you're not giving up any free money. That's rule number 1. Triggering early withdrawal penalties. This is where some of you may think it's a good idea to take a distribution to pay cash for a car, or to pay for a wedding, or to pay for a college tuition, as an example. And these are all big no-nos if you can get away with it, because the reality is that there's a mandatory 20% withholding on your withdrawals that you take from your 401k. If you are under 59 and a half, they add a 10% penalty on top of that. So it literally could cost you up to 30% to get access to your own money. And so there are certain circumstances that could be attributable to being able to withdraw money from your 401k and not have these issues. But you need to understand what those are. And there are likely exceptions for things like first-time home buyers. Adoption rules apply in some cases. The coronavirus a few years ago, when we had the pandemic, that there were some circumstances that the government allowed you to withdraw money to help you pay your bills, and these types of things. So there's alternate options, if you will, with being able to get access to monies in the event that you're in an emergency situation and you need them. But we want to just make sure that we explore all your alternatives and all the options. Like, for example, have we considered taking a loan against your 401k? Well, I don't want to do that because it creates an additional payment for me, et cetera. No, okay, I can appreciate that, but it may help you save 20 to 30% right off the top if you do so, or consider that at least. Or have you considered a personal loan through a banking association that you have, or a home equity loan? So equity that you have in your home to be able to pay cash for the lake house that you're considering buying, or the property that you want to own, or the car that you want to pay for, are all pretty good examples. And so early withdrawal penalties are a thing, and we want to do everything we can to go out of our way to avoid those. This is a big one, and this is a big one on multiple levels. Okay, so not consolidating, excuse me, multiple 401ks is a problem. All right, so if you have worked for 2 or 3 different companies in your work history, and you have existing 401ks there that you contributed to, moved on, started with a new company, and just kind of forgot about them or never did anything with them, you got a couple of issues. Remember, number one, your spouse cannot inherit those funds. Okay. And let me make sure I'm clear on what I'm talking about. When you have a 401k and you have a beneficiary and you die, those payments cannot be just pushed off to your spouse. In other words, your spouse can't inherit your 401k. Those funds have to be liquidated and sent to your spouse so that they can otherwise be put into a IRA of their own, or beneficiary IRA. So there are transactions that need to occur in order for your spouse to actually get those funds. In addition, it's really difficult where, as on a daily basis, you've got things in life coming at you pretty quickly, to manage multiple accounts, right? So there may be some options that are available from an investment perspective in one of your 401ks, but not all of your 401ks. Or there's a better large cap version in 401k2, but not 401k1, for example. And so it really helps when you consider consolidating these things for not just a couple of those things that I've mentioned, but compounding interest is your friend. And so the more capital that you have working in favor or in tune with what you're trying to accomplish from a goals perspective on the retirement planning side, the better off that you're ultimately going to be. And oh, by the way, it could lower your fees, as it turns out, among other things that I've already mentioned. And so moving those funds into an IRA, for example, may be the best solution. The best solution may be for you to consider moving those funds into the existing 401k that you currently participate in. And so just basically avoiding these, because life is happening and we all have things going on and we're all very busy, that this is a mistake. And we want to have this on our list of things to avoid when we're talking about your 401k stuff. Overestimating or investing in your company stock, or the value of your company stock, is a big one, right? It's very easy to do, where if you set up your 401k, for example, which we see many cases of back in the 70s or 80s or 90s when you started with the company, and you just never did anything about the allocations, and all of a sudden now you have 80% of your money in the company that you work for. That's a mistake, right? And it's often uncorrelated to what your retirement goals are. Where if I were to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10 how much risk you're willing to assume, you would say, man, somewhere in the middle of the road, maybe like a 6 or maybe a 7, right? But if you have 100% of your money or close to it of your 401k in one stock, that's a 10 for the most part from a risk perspective, right? No matter how good or relevant the company that you work for is, that it's not correlated with your retirement goals, which is the point here. And so what we want to make sure that we do is concern ourselves with what our objectives are, what our timelines are, what our goals are, what risk you're comfortable taking, and address and allocate your 401k accordingly. And so limiting your company stock to a certain percentage, sometimes it's anywhere between 5 and 10. Some of you may be comfortable owning 30, 40, maybe even 50% of your money in company stock, because you have other investments inside IRAs or outside the company plan that you can address and deal with the diversification aspect of your overall portfolio in those a little easier than you can in your 401k, which certainly makes some sense in some circumstances. And so diversifying your investments are clearly here to mitigate your risk. That's pretty much the number one priority here of concerning ourselves with how much money we have in the company stock that we work for inside your 401k. And then finally, failing to rebalance your portfolio, which is a big one, right? This could lead to a mismatch between your objectives. For the same reason, having too much money in company stock might not be correlated with your overall retirement goals, is the risk that you're willing to take versus what you're technically taking. And so we want to review these on a regular basis. If you have to, put a calendar reminder in your Apple or your iPhone or whatever it is, on an annual basis, once a year. On March 1st, I'm going to commit to spending 15 minutes and looking at my 401k to ensure that those allocations look somewhat relevant, right? And then if you have a partner of some sort that you can share this with to help confirm that those are the risks that you're willing and able to take and you're comfortable with, then you have a plan that's going forward. And that's the biggest issue that we see on a regular basis, which is the lack of planning from a big picture, not just risk perspective, but an overall planning perspective for retirement in general. So we want to make sure that we hit these desired allocations and the correct, appropriate risk-adjusted returns that we're willing and able to take. And so just make sure that if you have to, remind yourself, and it's as easy as putting a one-year reminder in your calendar every year on a given date that you're comfortable with and going forward with that. So as we conclude or kind of shorten this thing up so that we don't take up too much of your time, in whole, those 5 things that I just went over are unbelievably vital, right? As minuscule as they may seem on the surface, they can add up. And so when you start adding up all these things about how many 401ks that you haven't consolidated, or not participating to the greatest degree you can to get your match from your 401k, or taking unnecessarily withdrawals that create penalties and potential tax problems for you while you're still working. All these things are issues, right? And so having these mistakes addressed to the greatest degree you can puts you on track for a smooth and successful retirement. And that's what we're trying to accomplish. And frankly, the sooner that you start that, the better off you're ultimately going to be. We want to be proactive here. We want to take steps and treat our retirement as if you were treating the family activity that you have going on this weekend of importance, right? And how you're going to enjoy the time with whatever it is that you're planning on doing on your free time. And we want to address your retirement planning as with the same level of intensity and the same attitude, because when it comes down to it and you stop working and the paychecks stop coming in, you're going to effectively rely on that pool of capital that you've worked an entire lifetime to accumulate and manage or mismanage to the greatest degree you can, right? So that's all that we have to work with, and we want to treat that as if it's one of the biggest priorities that we have for sure. And if you need to, look, that's why people like us are in business, okay? We're here to be a partner for those of you looking for a partner in retirement, and it's because this is something that we know people don't plan for. When we see people who are over the age of 50, we know statistically they don't have a written financial plan for their retirement goals. And there's no excuse for that, because frankly, firms like ours use this as a way to introduce our services to you. And so if you're willing to spend some time with us, we're delighted to create a cash flow analysis for you and kind of help you answer some of these questions that might be lingering in the back of your mind on how they play a role in your overall ability to enjoy a successful retirement. And so Sam had mentioned at the beginning the number of years of experience that we have across our team and having offices nationwide to be able to address these savings plan and pension plan and medical plans and things that are relevant to your specific company, right? And so we want to make sure that we offer this cash flow analysis to you in the event that you're open to taking advantage of that. And you can email us to get that going at info@theretirementgroup.com. You can call our 800 number, which is 800-900-5867. If you would like, you can schedule an appointment with myself or any one of my colleagues by taking a picture of this QR code to the left, and it will get you access to a calendar where you can pick a time that works for you for sure. And then if you're not already following us on LinkedIn, I would encourage you to do that. We have a lot of great company-specific updates for a lot of the companies that we're familiar with and helping them with their pensions and their 401ks and health stuff and things of that nature. So if you're not already following us on LinkedIn, I would encourage you to do that. And as a quick kind of review, as I mentioned, this 401k thing is one of the biggest pools of money for the most part you're probably going to have to rely on in retirement. And so the more you pay attention to that, the more attention you give this during your working years and leading up to retirement, the more likely it is you're going to have a smooth transition into and beyond from a retirement perspective. So with that, what I'll do is I'll pass it back to Sam to see if we have any questions before we let you go for the afternoon. Sam?
Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, we have just a couple questions. Number one, how can I ensure I'm making the most of my employer's 401k match as I approach retirement?
Oh, this is an easy one. Contribute. Put as much as you can possibly afford in here. Listen, I'll be crystal clear, okay? This is my 25th year in this business, and I have never, ever, ever met anyone who retired with too much money. Ever. So it's impossible for you to say, if you can afford to put in 300, but you want to put in 400 or put in 500 or put in 1,000. Or some of our people earmark their entire salary from their spouse to allow them to save a massive amount of money to catch up because they put their kids through private school and they had a lot of expenses with kids playing club sports and things like this, right? Where you feel like you have to catch up, which is perfectly fine. Oh, by the way, that example that I just gave you allows you to see what it's like to live off of one salary, which might be important when you actually transition into retirement, to see what it is that you can afford to live off of and
Yeah.
enjoy the lifestyle that you wish to live. So the answer to that question is, how do you maximize it? You put in, you contribute, make sure you're getting every free dollar that the company allows you to get, and then some. And if you can afford to put it in there, I'm telling you, you should put it in.
That's such a good planning strategy, learning to live off one salary. Wow.
For sure.
Alrighty. Number two, I have $1 million in my 401k. How can I plan to pass on my wealth to my heirs in the most tax efficient manner?
Well, great question. Congratulations, first of all. It's a very nice amount of money in your
Yeah.
401k, which is great. And this is a multifaceted answer, frankly. So there are some things that you can do. So, for example, I'm assuming that this person is probably putting at minimum the IRS minimum, which is, depending on their age, somewhere between 26 and 28,000 a year. So if this person is putting in more, for example, it's likely that they're overfunding their plan. And if your plan allows this, which many of the companies that we talk to, their employees, they do, which is overfunding your plan. So a lot of people don't know that the IRS allows you to put in closer to $65,000 total in your 401k. And it's a combination of some of that being pre-tax money and some of that being after-tax money. So one of the variables of this question is how to pass your heirs pass the money to your heirs in the most tax efficient way possible. Having this overfunding allows your after tax money to be currently growing taxable, so that if you have money that's growing underneath a qualified plan, those monies that you're earning while it's in that qualified plan are being put on the taxable side. So in other words, when you take the money out, you have to pay income tax on it. But it's likely that your company allows you to withdraw that money, which the IRS allows you to put directly into your Roth IRA, even though some of you are too highly compensated to actually contribute to a Roth IRA. There's no income restrictions to do this. And you can move that after tax money into your Roth IRA. Frankly, the sooner that you do that, the better. We have people who do this every single year. And so that's one huge benefit that you can address to talk about this, tax efficient manner of how to get money to your heirs, because immediately that money's going into a Roth IRA and growing tax free for the rest of your life. And then a more complex answer would be to look at estate planning things like, charitable planning, and there's some tax planning that you can do on the insurance side of things that would make a lot of sense from a tax-free perspective that you might want to consider. And so this is probably more of a personal type question that we can help you with in the event that you're more interested in learning specifics about your circumstance. But yeah, hopefully those two small things help.
Thank you, Patrick. Alrighty, we're going to do one more.
Okay.
How can I incorporate healthcare costs into my retirement planning, considering my 401k savings?
Hmm. Carefully would be my best answer. Um, so we have a cash flow analysis, right? I mentioned this is one of those exercises that we do for someone who's interested in spending some time with us to kind of show them what the roadmap of their financial picture and their retirement may look like. And one of the things that comes up most frequently is what and or how to address healthcare costs, right? Because it's expensive, especially for our people who are leaving in their late 50s and early 60s, and Medicare doesn't become eligible for people until they're age 65, right? So there's this 3 to 5 year window on average that people are responsible to pay their own healthcare costs. Couple of things I would encourage you: one, to run your cash flow analysis with a designed expense to cover just healthcare expenses. And so if you think you're going to pay somewhere between $500 and $700 a month, for example, for healthcare, put into the cash flow you're going to pay 1,000. Okay, so you can see what kind of ramifications that does to your overall net worth when you're in your late 70s and early and late 80s, right? And so that's how you kind of see the financial impact of that over your life expectancy. And then, not just related to healthcare, but this could apply to any other expense that we have, right? Because in our eyes, healthcare, of course, as expensive and probably the biggest priority for people to be concerned about. The reality is we have other expenses to deal with also, right? Like it's probably likely that you're going to have to buy a new car when you're retired at some point, maybe once or twice or more. And so that's an expense that we have to cover, right? Maybe you're considering buying a property, a lake house, or somewhere, a vacation home of some sort, and you want to see what that might look like on an added expense over and above what your normal living expenses are. And so all these things can be specific line items on the cash flow analysis to show you that we've got these expenses covered plus your normal expenses. And then ultimately, if this were to compound over the next 20 years, this is what it looks like. And that's the significance of having the cash flow analysis done.
Alrighty, Patrick, thank you so much. That was all we had time for today. We want to thank everybody for joining us today. We hope that we will see you again on another webinar. Make an appointment to speak with Patrick and have a good day. Thanks, everybody.
Wonderful. Thanks for your
Bye,
time, everyone.
Patrick.
Have a great day. Bye bye.
Thank you.